With me while I apply Inspiration Stout today. Most popular brand new car package. This car has 995 miles on it. I did the same thing on a GMC vehicle. It had 342 miles, where I do a leather conditioner and protectant on the leather seats, and then I do a 5-year coating on the exterior paint and put a 1-year coating on the wheels. And so that's what I just finished up doing on this vehicle. And so I'm going to go ahead and pull it out into the sun, do a final walkthrough of it. But I mean, it's just, this is, if you just bought a brand new vehicle and you want it to stay looking brand new, having the 5-year coating and then also having me come back and do a monthly maintenance, that will just really help it stay absolutely beautiful, especially here in the Sacramento area, Roseville, Rockland, Granite Bay, Gold River, down in Arden Park. Those are where most of my clients end up being, and if you can garage keep your vehicle, it's going to look even better. But we just got done putting Stout on the exterior, Defender on the wheels, and then the PNS leather conditioner and protectant on all the leather seats. So we already have everything that we need out. We basically just need a pressure washer, we'll need the air gun, we need stuff to be able to clean the wheels and tires, and then we need the actual coating. The other thing that I have is just the coating applicator, and I'll show you those when we actually get to the coating step. So the first thing though is we're going to clean the wheels and tires, but before that we have to have our pressure washer on, turn the water on, plug in power, plug in the pressure washer to the power, make sure that we have batteries going. Our foam cannon is already filled up with Dark Fury at 5-to-1. We already have our foam cannon ready to go. The other thing that we don't have out yet is our clay reset towel. That's the one other thing. But those are all the things that we need to be able to prep the surface properly to then be able to apply the coating. The other things were in the shade. That's really important for a coating application as well. After we turn the water on for the pressure washer, we want to bleed the line. Basically let it do its thing where it'll sputter like this because there's a long hose and there's air bubbles in that. For the pressure washer's health long term, you want to let this essentially bleed for about 30 seconds and then turn the pressure washer on. First, I'm going to go around and just put this stuff on all 4 tires. Chemical work for a little bit. We've sprayed all 4 tires. Now we're going to go ahead and use the stronger bristle brush on the actual wheels themselves. And we're going to switch to this guy and clean. Whenever I'm doing this, I start at the top and work my way around, and in each of these individual spokes as well, I just basically work in a circle, and start from the top and work your way down. We are going to be coating these wheels as well, so making sure that they're as clean as possible is very important, so that way we can coat these, especially when they're a bit more complicated like these ones are. And after we're done cleaning that one, we already bled the pressure washer, we're just going to turn it on, and then we're going to use it on the wheel. If it's the first time I'm detailing a car, I also like to use the pressure washer close here. And the other thing is I tend to just clean the wheel well at the same time. Just repeat that process on each of the 4 wheels. Work tire, wheel, going in a circle, wheel well. Done. Do that 4 times, then I'll see you at the next step. Here's something else that I do is as I'm in the process at the beginning of the ceramic coating, I will send people the 12-month, the 6-month, and then the monthly option, so that way they can think about it while I'm detailing and adding the coating. And then I've got this process doc that I'm just copying and pasting into here and then showing them the roadmap. It's really important to have people feel like you're making progress. So every 2 hours, I'll send an update with where I am in the process and the process that I'm going through. People just love to know where you're at, especially when you're outside with their car for hours. Here's something that I do is, this is less relevant on this vehicle, but there's some bug spots. I'll just use the tire dressing to go ahead and knock off any of the bugs that are there. The other thing is I will look at right behind the tires here, as well as right here, and this really is not bad, so I'm not even going to do this. But on most cars that are a little bit older, those are incredibly dirty areas that having a stronger chemical to break it down is helpful, as well as at the front, if there's a whole bunch of bugs and different stuff like that, this will break that down easier before we do the pre-rinse. Now, after I've done that, I'm going to go ahead and do the pre-rinse of the entire vehicle. Then I'm going to foam it up and do the contact wash, re-foam, do the clay, and then dry it off. And I'll show you each of those steps in just a second. So here's the pre-rinse. Pretty simple. Getting these bugs off. We want as little dirt on the paint as possible for the contact wash, because then we eliminate any chance of scratching with dirt. So we really want to do this pre-rinse quite well. These door sills during the rinse, and during the pre-rinse. This is something that I do as well while I'm doing the initial, usually it's the initial rinse. I make sure that I open the trunk and then just pressure wash out this inside area. That's an important thing to do. So then we're gonna go ahead and do the contact wash, and just start the top and the front here, and then work my way to the sides. I generally start with the roof first, just so I don't miss any of it. Now we repeat on the other side, and then after we do the top and the sides here, then we'll do the sides here all the way down to here. It's the next one. Then the last step is to do the very bottom and the front bumper and the rear bumper. Then after you do the contact wash, you're gonna rinse everything off. I tend to start on the top first with the roof, basically getting all the soap off there, then off the windows, then work your way down. And then after this, we're gonna go ahead and clay the vehicle, and go from there. So when we start with this in there, you just pull this down, bring this up. That's how you switch to the pressure washer. The other thing is, when I put this back in, every single time I shoot it down at the ground first, because every once in a while this doesn't seat 100% in, and it will shoot out. So by shooting it into the ground first, you ensure that this, if it shoots out, shoots into the ground, not into the car. Now I'm refoaming the whole car, and I'm going to clay the paint, and then I'll show you that in just a second. One other thing is, while the car is all foamed up, I will almost always take a photo from this front 3/4. I just use these grid lines and put that in the headlight. I either go left center like that, or I will put it directly into the center. That's how almost all my Instagram photos are taken, and so I just tend to keep doing that. You can either do that after the foam, the first foaming, that's a lot of times what I do, or right before claying, which is what I'm doing this time. So after you put this back in, again, shoot down, and then we're going to rinse this off. So we've just clayed the entire vehicle, all the paint, and now we're going to go ahead and pressure wash it off. So this is the final rinse before we're actually going to apply the coating. So making sure that we get all the soap out, because we're going to dry it after this and then do paint prep. So we start at the top. I'm going to start with this front glass and then work my way up. The other thing is, as I'm drying, I'm basically trying to push the water to one side or the other. So in this case, pushing the majority of the soap from this right side to the left side is how I'm mentally thinking of it. Because ideally, you rinse this one time, and if you just go in one direction primarily, you will have an easier time and it will work faster. And so, like from here, I'm pushing the soap downwards and around the car. So everything's going from this side to the other. Whenever I'm rinsing a side like this, I start at the top here. The other thing to keep in mind is that inside of these seams all around here, that's all going to trap a ton of water and soap. So you always want to get into those seams. The other thing is, a lot of times inside the door, these doors are a little bit different, but most doors don't go as low as these do, and so there will end up being soap in the door jambs, which there's a little bit right there. It's not a lot, but if you pressure wash that out right now, that's easier than doing it later. So there ends up being all this water that gets trapped right in here. So we want to blow all this stuff out. With the 5-year coating in particular, it's very susceptible to, if water drips through it, it's really not good. So drying this extremely thoroughly is very important. We're starting with the roof, and inside of here, water's trapped. And along these rails, there ended up being water trapped. So we're blowing everything off in this direction because the driveway's already slanted in that direction. Work with gravity, not against it. So if the car were turned the other way, I would be pushing whichever way is downhill. And after we actually blow as much of the water off as we can, then I'll just go ahead and use the drying towel to do this last bit. Not really doing the front glass yet, but close enough to be able to get some of it. I'll get what I can. The same thing over here. And generally, I'll just toss it over, move the ladder, I grab the air gun again. Again, we want to blow as much of this off as we can, so that way the towel stays as dry as possible. That's how we dry the top. Blow it first, use the drying towel. We're going to switch to the other side, grab those last little bits. I'm going to start from that front, blow as much of it back as I can, use the drying towel to grab the last little bits. One of the areas that's most likely to trap water is inside of this rear housing. The other thing is you always want to open up the trunk because there's going to be all this water that's going to drip. A lot of times with other SUVs, it goes up high enough that this stuff will drip a whole ton, and sometimes it will drip down the side here. So you want to let that empty out as much as it can. So as we're drying the actual body, and you can see how much water is trapped here. The other thing is we're on a slight angle, which means that water that's on the front up there is going to be trapped. I'm probably going to move my car back and flip the car around just so that way any of that last water that's in there will dump out. And just moving the car in general will help dump some of the water that's trapped in all these little places. I'm drying off this wheel with the air to begin with. The other thing is that I tend to try to dry the actual tire. There almost always ends up being a whole bunch of water that gets trapped right here. And then there's a bunch of water that gets trapped within the wheel wells here. Basically just blowing as much of the air off of here as possible, and then we're going to grab a rag and do the final drying and then add tire shine. The other thing is tire shine does a whole lot better on a dry wheel than on a wet wheel, which is why blowing as much of the air off of it as we can is very helpful. Here's one thing to know when you're drying, especially these trunk areas on any of these SUVs. There's going to be tons of water trapped in here. Usually lots of water trapped inside of all these little seams. So Same thing here. All of these seams, water's trapped in there. There's almost always water trapped up in these seams as well. Any one of these seams of body that you're seeing, these lights, trap a ton of water around here. The name of the vehicle, I'm thinking of the name of what this is called right now. But all these little areas, they trap water, and so you want to blow them out with a air gun. You can either use compressed air or something like this. For drying vehicles, I like this better. For doing interiors, I like the compressed air better. Here's why I like to turn the car around. You turn it around, especially if it's on a slanted driveway, as there just ends up being stuff that drips out. And so you do that, do a final dry, blow everything out again, all the cracks, the mirrors. These ones always drip a whole ton. Almost every car you can manually, very gently, just even if they're automatic mirrors, you can still push them in manually and then blow all the water out. I generally don't like to leave them in the closed position because many of the newer cars, they're automatically going to, at some point, they may lock and automatically try to go in. And so I like to leave them out except for right when I'm actually drying. So I'm gonna go ahead and blow everything out, starting from the back, moving forward, make sure that the door jambs are all dried, and then we're actually gonna start the coating process. Here's the next step, which is doing the paint prep. Basically all we're gonna do is throw this guy all over the paint, let it sit for about 30 seconds. Oh, we killed a ladybug. That's unfortunate. That is one thing when you clean cars, is bugs love the clean car, and that is a unfortunate part of the job, is that sometimes, sorry dude, there we go, you live your best life. There you go. Here's the paint prep process. I'm just trying to throw this all over the paint. That way any last contamination, not contamination, basically oils or anything that are on the paint, anything the dealer put on it. Like this car has 95 miles on it, so it's quite new, and so you still want to do this though, because they will put stuff on from the dealership, and you want to remove as much of that as you can before applying your own coating. Since I've washed, clayed the entire vehicle, added tire dressing, and added the coating to the wheels, and we are 3 hours in. So we started at 7 a.m. We're all done with all the prep work. In this case, it's 3 hours just to get the vehicle to the point where now we're good to coat it. And so much of applying a coating is actually the prep process. It's a beautiful day outside, but again, even though it's a white car and the sun is not that harsh yet, we do want to not apply indirect sunlight, which is why I'm going to start on the shaded side first, and then I'll turn the car around and do the other side. So that's the process for the actual coating application, and I'll show you that in just a second. And here's the amount I just put on for this center section. I do tend to like to do an X marks the spot type of thing. So we're just going to go all the way over, and these are overlapping. Just trying to get an even amount of product and using that as the end point. One interesting thing with this paint is that, there it is. I don't know if you guys can see this. I'm trying to look through my left eye, but you can start to see it tack up just a little bit right there. And it is. It's cool enough that I'm going to give it a little bit more time to do its thing. This is about, I'm going to give it about normally it's like 30 seconds or pretty much as soon as you're done applying. And we're just leveling it. Really all we're trying to do. I'm not even putting that much pressure on the pad or on this. Something that I've done with this pad, I'm actually using both sides, but I'm specifically using this side now for any of the lower panels, and then I'm only using this one for the higher panels. So I started off using this one for just whichever, but then I switched. So, let that sit for just a second. And the beautiful thing about this is we're in the shade. So even though the sun is basically overhead, we're just going to do this part that is shaded, and panel temperature, pretty nice. Here's a small thing I did that could have made installing this coating really stressful, but instead, it's pretty chill. What is this? I just made sure this bottle was about a little more than halfway down, and I wasn't sure if I would have enough to coat the whole vehicle. I still have the rest of the front here, and I may make it with this, but I have an entire another bottle just in case. And that's a small thing. When you're doing this kind of work, at least for me, eliminating variables and potential stressors actually makes a big difference in how good of a job I can do applying this coating. And so I tend to, with that in mind, just go, if I just have an extra bottle, I've got more coatings that are coming up over the next few weeks, and so I would just rather have another 50 milliliters just in case, and maybe I'll make it through, maybe I won't with that much left. I might make it, but the beautiful thing is I have a whole nother bottle, so it doesn't matter. And I love operating in that way rather than going, will I have enough, and being concerned about it. That makes a big difference for me when I'm applying these coatings, and when you are investing in having this coating done, you don't want the person who's applying it being concerned that they might run out of the product required to do it. So that's why I always have a backup. Someone early in my life said, have a backup for everything in your life except for your faith and your marriage. And I do my best to live by that rule. Served me well. I had a pressure washer, one died. I had a backup already ready to go, just swapped it out. And so that's something that serves me well. This is what it looks like after I've just applied the coating. I don't know how well you can see this, but now I'm going to go ahead and just take this off and level it, and we'll leave behind protection. So here's how I'm cleaning and conditioning these brand new leather seats. So I've got Express interior on this cloth already, and then I'm just wiping these guys down. This vehicle has a total of 995 miles on it, so it's quite new. And we're gonna go ahead and do this, and then we're going to add PNS, the leather conditioner and protectant. That way it stays looking as close to new as possible for as long as possible. Here's how I apply PNS, leather conditioner and protectant. One thing with these types of seats, with the perforated leather, you just want to make sure that you don't get blobs in there. They're pretty tough to get out if you do. I always will put some of the product on there, and then I will blot it onto these points first. And I find that that makes how easy it is to distribute the product evenly on the seat. It's just much easier. And so that's one thing that I would encourage you, if you're cleaning your own leather seats, to avoid, is just putting dime-sized blops here and then going straight on. They'll get into these holes and be very challenging to get out. You can blast them out with either steam or with compressed air. It's not impossible to get them out, but it's challenging. If you can avoid it, do so. So, and after I put on this initial layer, I'm just going to come back in about 10 minutes and see if there's any residue that's left over. Use a brand new microfiber and just go over it one more time, and then we will be good to go. I just finished up applying stout to this vehicle. Went through this bottle, started at about here, went through the full bottle and then a little bit more. So if you've got a Lexus TX, just know that you'll need at least 30 milliliters of stout to get through the whole vehicle. It's a larger vehicle, so it takes more, but that's about how much it takes. And like I kind of predicted, right at the label was where we'd end up. Most popular brand new car package. This car has 995 miles on it. I did the same thing on a GMC vehicle. It had 342 miles, where I do a leather conditioner and protectant on the leather seats, and then I do a 5-year coating on the exterior paint and put a 1-year coating on the wheels. And so that's what I just finished up doing on this vehicle. And so I'm going to go ahead and pull it out into the sun, do a final walkthrough of it. But I mean, it's just, this is, if you just bought a brand new vehicle and you want it to stay looking brand new, having the 5-year coating and then also having me come back and do a monthly maintenance, that will just really help it stay absolutely beautiful, especially here in the Sacramento area, Roseville, Rockland, Granite Bay, Gold River, down in Arden Park. Those are where most of my clients end up being, and if you can garage keep your vehicle, it's going to look even better. But we just got done putting stout on the exterior, Defender on the wheels, and then the PNS leather conditioner and protectant on all the leather seats. Gotta put those in there. It's a 5-year coating, leather conditioner and protectant.